older age groups are less willing to enlist in the army. Only 1 in 4 people aged 55 and above will be willing to enlist. Similarly, young people are the most optimistic about equal opportunities in Nigeria. But even among them, only about 1 in 5, 20%, believe opportunities are equal. This belief drops dramatically as the age increases. None of the respondents over 55 years and above believe Nigeria offers equal opportunities. Perhaps their position is informed by the experience over the years. Across all age groups, the vast majority feel that Nigeria does not provide equal opportunities for its citizens. Now, let us look at the takeaways from our study. First, let me observe that most of the findings from our survey are to a large extent in sync with the findings of the previous surveys conducted by the scholars whose studies I referred to earlier. However, citizens of developing countries are believed to have a stronger desire to go to war than citizens of developed countries. In a survey on the willingness to go to war conducted by World Atlas in 2018, Morocco and Fiji Islands came tops because 94% of their citizens showed a willingness to go to war for their countries. This was followed by Vietnam, 89%, Pakistan, 89%, and Bangladesh, 86%. An Oceanian country like Papua New Guinea came 7th, with 84% of her citizens being willing to go to war to protect her. What then is responsible for the relatively low percentage of Nigerians who are willing to go to war to defend their country? The other takeaway is that many Nigerians do not have the confidence that any of the former institutions, be it government, religious, tribal, or even social institutions, can protect their interests. The last takeaway from this category is more profound. The majority of our people don't believe that the state provides a level playing field for its citizens to accomplish themselves. This borders but what you can do for your country. In our case, our citizens seem to be asking, what has our country done for us in return for all our love for her? We shall address the way forward, but first, let us examine some challenges impeding patriotism from blossoming fully in the country. Those are what we consider or call here threats to patriotism in Nigeria. The results of our survey are quite humbling. They point to a worrisome decline in a feeling of patriotism among Nigerians across several key parameters. In other words, something is amiss. What combination of factors could be responsible for this near cynicism among our countrymen and women? Theoretically, a number of factors are known to weaken a sense of patriotism among citizens. They include lack of knowledge of a country's value, the history of the country, the culture of the country, and the critical assessment of the government, and personal negative experiences such as injustice, inequality, and corruption. Distinguished audience, I make bold to state that our great nation faces a variety of threats that strike at the heart of our patriotism. I crave your indulgence to speak frankly about these issues, for only by acknowledging them can we hope to overcome them. Although the security situation in our country has witnessed tremendous improvements in recent times, the damage done by waves and seasons of sheer brigandage across the country is simply bewildering. From the insurgency in the northeast to the banditry plaguing the northwest, from the communal clashes in the Middle Belt to the rise of separatist agitations in the southeast and southwest. These threats not only endanger our citizens, but also erode the fabric of our nationhood. It is unrealistic to expect unconditional patriotism from a man or woman, boy or girl, whose loved ones are being mowed down by bandits, whose means of livelihood is threatened by criminals acting with impunity, whose sense of security is compromised, and whose feelings of belonging is shortchanged because of his or her ethnic or religious background. Patriotism is alien. Patriotism is alien to such people, especially when it seems the country has given them neither justice nor reprieve. Can you preach patriotism to men, women, and children who have been living in IDP camps across the country? Like William Cowper put it, no man can be a patriot on an empty stomach. If citizens have no confidence in the capacity of the country to provide social justice or equity, is it fair to expect fervent loyalty or patriotism from them? Your gaze, I feel, will be as good as mine. Political challenges too. Political challenges cast a long shadow over our nation. Corruption. If I am not the one, no man should be. Disrespect to leadership. Inability to cooperate and support national sovereignty. The insidious cancer continues to eat away at our institutions and our individual and collective feelings of patriotism. The practice of looting our commonwealth, some of which is invested abroad at the detriment of our own economic development, is about the most unpatriotic act the office holder can undertake. Our long history with nepotism and misgovernance undermines public trust among Nigerians to the extent that if care is not taken, Nigerians will transfer aggression to innocent leaders who have just emerged. These issues do not merely hinder our progress, they actively work against the very ideas of nationhood and patriotism which we hold dear. Inept leadership of the past has ruined many socio-economic disparities in our society. The gap between the privileged and the disadvantaged widens daily, creating a nation divided not just by ethnicity or religion, but by inequality, opportunity, and access to resources. As a result, most of our citizens do not believe that our country holds equal opportunities for everyone. This inequality strikes at the very heart of our patriotic zeal. It dampens that zeal in more ways than one. These issues have created a crisis of patriotism in our nation. They have led many to question their faith in Nigeria, and no doubt the promise of our great country, Nigeria. My esteemed members of the Yoruba Tennis Club, I do not enumerate these challenges to dishearten us. Rather, I mention them because we have to confront them head-on if we must overcome. The issue of declining patriotism is a global phenomenon. Even developed countries, including the almighty USA, are currently grappling with the challenge of declining patriotism among their citizens. Thus, I stand here today to tell you that all hope is not lost. The spirit of Nigeria, that indomitable will that has seen us through countless trials, still burns bright. Our potential remains vast. Our resources are abundant, and our people are resilient. We simply need a renewal of our national spirit, a recommitment to the ideas that bind us together as one nation. We must work tirelessly to address these challenges, to build a Nigeria that provides security, prosperity, and justice for all its citizens. Look at the current policies of the new administration. Let us not be aggrieved by the actions of the past. Let us evaluate the present realistically and pragmatically. This task falls not just on the government, but to every Nigerian. We must each play our part in rebuilding trust, in promoting unity, in rekindling the flames of patriotism among Nigerians. We must remember that Nigeria is more than just a geographical expression. It is our home. It is our heritage. It is our hope for the future. But how do we face these challenges practically? How do we renew patriotic zeal among 225 million people who call Nigeria their home? How do we reclaim and bring back the Nigerians who do not feel that their country has offered them sufficient space for equality and social justice? Hereunder is my opinion on how this can be achieved. One thing is clear. I hold the view that these Nigerians have never given up on Nigeria, so they can be reclaimed. Thus, I found plenty of solace in the article written by Timothy Oyegoke, which I already referred to. In his conclusion, he said, the migration of many Nigerians out of the country is not an issue of unpatriotism, but it is about life. It is about liberty. It is about the pursuit of happiness. I concur with this conclusion. I concur because I've observed that these Nigerians retain a very high level of interest in the affairs of the country. For example, I received countless invitations by our diaspora Nigerians to come and talk about developments in Nigeria. How do we bring back the Nigerians? Every day we are faced with situations that make us wonder the kind of country we would bequeath to our children. The thought or prospects of bequeathing a country devoid of nationalism, devoid of security and patriotism, is scary, and the task of reclaiming Nigeria is an urgent one. Thus, allow me to outline a number of strategies that will bring back the unique feelings of pride in being a Nigerian, and this will, in turn, help us to find the elusive or missing Nigerians. I'm referring to that deep and emotional feelings of pride that infected all Nigerians when our green, white, green flag was unveiled as the symbol of our independence. First and foremost, we must promote and embody our national values. Citizenship, integrity, and national pride should not just be only words we recite, but principles we live by. Our National Orientation Agency and the entire Ministry of Information and National Orientation will spearhead efforts to champion these values, inspiring a renewed commitment and loyalty to Nigerians among all citizens. This is why I praise the decision of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government to introduce our old national anthem, Nigeria We Heard You. The words of this anthem feel like the balm to the battered soul of our nation. It is truly a wonder that it was ever jettisoned in the first place. Thankfully, it is back for good. It is the first crucial step in the redemptive task of renewing our patriotic zeal. We must keep looking to our history for inspiration. Our founding fathers and leaders of independent Nigeria had patriotism in their DNA. They took on the colonialists with fervor and fought with pride for a new Nigeria, free from the shackles of colonialism. Their act of courage left us as proud inheritors of their hard work and sacrifice. We must honor their legacy by embodying that same spirit of patriotism in our own time. But the sweet lyrics of an anthem, the soothing words of a pledge, the bright colors of a flag, and the wishes of our forebears will not be enough. Accountability, integrity, and purposeful leadership must be at the forefront of our efforts if we must achieve the desired result. We cannot expect patriotism to flourish in an environment where corruption and nepotism go unchecked. I am convinced and I'm happy that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is on track to rebuild Nigeria. Recent reports from PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, indicate that some of the desired positive economic changes have begun to emerge from the reform policies of the federal government. According to the report, Fitch Ratings revised the outlook on Nigeria's long-term foreign currency issuer default ratings, IDR, from being stable to positive. On exports grew. Oil exports grew by 200.9% to 15.5 trillion naira in Q1 of 2024, from 5.5 trillion naira it was in Q1 of 2023. Non-oil exports grew by 38.5% to 1.8 trillion in Q1 of 2024, from 1.3 trillion in Q1 of 2023 it was. This is a clear signal that we are getting out of the woods. That aside, the administration has expressed desire and capacity to fight corruption and enthrone good governance. Inclusive governance is another hallmark that we should encourage. If the truth must be told, President Bola Tinubu has, by the equitable spread of critical infrastructure, reassured Nigerians of diverse ethnic and religious leanings that they should have faith in the country. That is a practical way of engendering a sense of belonging and a deeper sense of patriotism among them. The major factor facilitating this process is inclusivity. When people believe they belong, that sense of belonging makes it easier for them to believe in the country again. It is on record that under the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the hierarchy of the security architecture is now more inclusive. This is a major ingredient for national cohesion, which helps our findings of those Nigerians who believe the country protects their interests. You will be glad to know that in Imo State, my administration has demonstrated a strong commitment to good governance and accountability. We particularly empowered our young boys and girls in the digital skills. Over 40,000 have graduated, and 85% of them gainfully employed. The truth is that the government of Imo State and even the APC-led federal government are committed to supporting our anti-corruption agencies and enforcing stricter penalties for those who betray the public trust. When we hold individuals accountable for their actions and punish their bad behaviors that compromise our collective welfare through the strengthening of our criminal justice system, we create a society where patriotism can thrive. Our youth are the future of this nation. We must engage them in nation building. We must expand educational programs which celebrate Nigeria's rich culture and history, encouraging our young people to take pride in their heritage. Community service initiatives and civic responsibilities should be integrated into our education system, instilling in our youth a sense of ownership and pride in their citizenship. Civic education must be a cornerstone of our efforts. Our schools will promote civic responsibility and patriotism by teaching our children about the country's history, about the country's culture and values. It is only by understanding our past that we'll be better equipped to shape our tomorrow. National unity and inclusivity are paramount in our quest to revive patriotism. Nigeria's diversity should be a source of strength and not a source of weakness. Across all sectors, the government must prioritize policies that ensure social justice for all citizens, regardless of their background. We should actively work to bridge the gaps between different groups, celebrating our diversity while emphasizing our shared values and aspirations as Nigerians. We must also strengthen our national symbols and traditions. The Nigerian flag, the national anthem, the national pledge should be recognized and promoted as national symbols and powerful reminders of our collective identity and values. We should restore and promote the old tradition of the regular and purposeful use of the national anthem and pledge in our schools, in public institutions, at community events. Additionally, we should celebrate and preserve our rich cultural heritage, promoting a stronger connection to our history and identity. The media and public figures play crucial roles in shaping our national narrative. We should work closely with the media to highlight positive stories of patriotism, not promote to envisage the protests on August 10 by unknown hands. Civic engagement and national achievement. Whenever we promote patriotic role models, we inspire ourselves to take pride in our country and contribute to its development. In conclusion, my esteemed audience, reviving patriotism in our great nation is a task that falls to each of us. It requires a fundamental shift in our mindset and behavior, from the halls of government to the streets, from the cities to the villages. We must all work together to foster a sense of national pride and commitment to our country's progress. The challenges we face are significant, but they are not unsurmountable. We can rekindle the flame of patriotism in our country if we address these issues head-on by promoting good governance, promoting unity, investing in education, addressing economic challenges, and celebrating our national identity. We must also consider how far our nation is driven by merit in her public and private life. How many young people get employed in private and public spaces on merit rather than on who they know or where they come from? How many people move up their career ladder based on merit rather than on who they know, their creed or tribe? How many young men and women have unfettered opportunities to pursue their dreams, their careers or occupations based on what they can offer rather than on who they know or where they come from? The questions are indeed endless. The truth is that this nation is not largely merit-driven, and that is our major burn. Let me illustrate this unfortunate reality with a true life story that represents the lot of many folks. Two boys were born the same year in the same city in Nigeria, but to two parents from different parts of the country. They attended the same secondary school and sat the common entrance examination to Unity Secondary Schools the same year. One scored 250 in the exam, and the other scored 120. The one that scored 250 was not admitted, but the one with 120 was admitted. So why the one, hold on. So why the one who scored 120, went to a federal school, a federal government college? The one with 220 went to a community secondary school in his state. Both finished secondary school the same year and took the joint admission and matriculation board exam. Both applied to study law in the first generation universities. The one who went to a federal government college scored 118 in JAM, while the one who went to a community school scored 237. The one with 118 was admitted to the first generation university of his choice, while the one who scored 230 was not. He eventually got admission to a university owned by his own state. Again, both graduated the same year in law, with the one who went to a state university back in a first class, while his friend made a third class. Both were called to the bar the same year. Again, the third class graduate immediately got a federal job, while his class friend remained jobless, who bagged first class. Later, he became a charge and bail lawyer for lack of job to do. 12 years after the call to bar, the charge and bail lawyer had a matter in a federal high court. When the judge entered the courtroom, guess what? It was his childhood who met a class friend that was the judge. The question is, could this scenario have occurred if our system was merit-driven? The answer is that, of course, you know. Granted that and our Nigerianness, I believe that there should be a way to balance this to ensure the accommodation of many. Government could initiate a policy to grant automatic scholarships to those who score a certain grade in JAM. Say, for instance, those who score 300 and above, or those within the bracket of the best 0.05% performance. Similarly, the government can make it a standing policy that those who graduate with first class in federal universities will be given automatic jobs. State government should do the same for those graduating from their state universities. I actually did that with those who made first class in law in both Imo State University and the law school. They were given automatic jobs in the state. I'm convinced that adopting such policies will ensure that our brightest and best brains are not allowed to be frustrated, just like the case of the man in the pathetic story I just narrated. We need to create enough space for everyone to thrive, and this should emphasize merit. Herein comes the need to take another look at our federal project, which in my view is currently skewed. We need to create sufficient space for all tribes and tongues in the land to thrive without impeding the speed or space of order. This is why the need to rejig our federal project may be inevitable. If we do, we would have gone a long way in addressing the root of the palpable despair of a good number of our people who have lost confidence that the present federal structure is capable of protecting their interests. This is cogent, because when we take this needful step, we will have ensured that more powers are not only devolved to the states, but more responsibilities, space, and resources also, which will be enough to accommodate the yearnings of our people, particularly the teeming population of the youth. Besides, by doing so, we will be true to the creed of our new national anthem, that though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. And I dare to add that when we do, we will find that the Nigerians we seek, who love their country fervently, and who will be ready to make sacrifices for her, are indeed everywhere. As George McGowan once said, the highest patriotism is not a blind acceptance of official policy, but a love of one's country deep enough to call her to higher planes. Ladies and gentlemen, from the foregoing, it must be obvious that we all have a duty to find and reclaim our fellow compatriots, including those in the diaspora. Speak to their consciences. Let them understand the value of being loyal to the country. Let them not be incited by agents of the system, agents of the government. We must engage them all over in the task of building the Nigerian nation as part of responsibility as true patriots. Finally, I want to leave you with the words of Adela Stevenson. Patriotism is not a short and frenzied outburst of emotion, but the tranquil and steady dedication of a lifetime. The task of our generation is to find or build this category of patriotic Nigerians, those who are the Nigerians the nation needs to survive. I thank you again for the privilege to lead this conversation on patriotism here at the platform of this prestigious club, the oldest indigenous club in our beloved country. May God bless all of us. Long live the Yoruba Tennis Club. Long live Nigeria. Long live Federal Republic of Nigeria. Long live the chairman of Yoruba Boss.
It will no doubt be a good material for the need to rejig our governance architecture. As you may have heard in the course of proceedings here, Yoruba Tennis Club, founded almost a century ago, was premised on the need for truth and social justice. Public lectures such as this is a platform that has been variously used over the years to bring to attention important issues that can promote communal cohesion and happiness of the people. For those who listened with rapt attention to His Excellency's delivery, you must have noticed one constant factor: the human resources. When you talk of the attributes of a state, a nation, population it is, Nigeria has it. We have territory, we have sovereignty. Those are elements of modern nation states. But most of the conclusions were anchored on the need to consciously channel the human resource to make for a better society. Without bugging you much, there are some sound bites that I will bring again to your attention. Part of it was that only those with a passion for social justice in the land will promote communal prosperity. And today's lecture has largely addressed these contradictions in the Nigerian society. He provides ways forward to make it better. Also, he highlighted the fact that Nigerians generally love their country. All the leadership needs to do is to mobilize, motivate them, and guide them to a better society. He highlighted the need for accountability, purposeful leadership, and responsibility, which should be the beacon of hope. Incidentally, he is Senator Hope, and he is in the Renewed Hope agenda. So in furtherance of all this, we should rebuild the nation, utilizing those elements he highlighted. You may have noticed that in addition to the current challenges, many attributed this to what is considered a faulty extant governance architecture. And many of the examples that His Excellency highlighted, they bordered on this. So, Yoruba Tennis Club has always been in the forefront of the need to tell it as it is to whomsoever is in power, with a view to having a more just socio-economic society. Part of His Excellency's submissions were the urgent need to review the extant inadequacies, which he copiously highlighted. Patriotism or love of one's country reflects in special affection, issue of personal identification, willingness to sacrifice one's life for country's good. Interestingly enough, I spent 33 years in the Nigerian Armed Forces, and it's saddening that from the statistics that His Excellency highlighted, not so many are willing to go. That means the present institutions require some reform. We have to say a second look at all this, but I commend to everyone this doctoral thesis of a lecture for us to read, digest, and then inform, articulate the issues to be submitted anytime we choose to rejig the country's governance architecture. So, since time has been well spent, it seems a bit on the long side, and the lecture appeared to have been well taken, we will allow for only 2 comments from either of the 2 aisles. Does anybody want to make a comment or a little contribution, or do I take it that it's all understood? Yes, the gentleman here. Will you please get in the mic?
Your Excellency, the Governor of Ekiti State, Your Majesty, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My comment is that I am here as the head of service of Imo State with representatives of the body of permanent secretaries to give confirmation, real-life confirmation, to what His Excellency has said in his paper. Real life in the sense that he met an Imo State civil service that was not strong enough for what he expected. And so when we talk about patriotism, citizen participation, that is the very reason the body of permanent secretary said we must be here. Because he has done it in healthcare provision, he has done it in salary payment, he has done it in training and retraining. And that is what we are expecting that he's doing here for all Nigerians. And so, Your Excellency, we thank you for this power to speak truth to power. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want one message. That message is that all of us have listened to this brilliant paper. And as you rightly said, it's a doctoral thesis. If this is a university, we could give him a doctorate degree today. But my point is here. He wouldn't be the first person to speak this way. And he probably will be not the last person. The question is, when these things are spoken, we should internalize it. Not to be thinking that it's the other man who should do it. Everybody has a way of pushing patriotism or the things that can bring social equity, equality to somebody else. My point, Mr. Chairman, is that today everybody living here has a small space he controls, has a little constituency. Can we act in that constituency the Nigerian that we want? Can we build it in that constituency, irrespective of what everybody else is doing? If we continue to that day for day, Nigeria will become that country we need. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I would like to call on our river trustee, who is here in representative capacity on behalf of the Chairman Board of Trustees, Brother Dr. Femi Okunu, SAN CON, who himself is a man of caliber. May I call on Brother Sigismund Babashi Joseph, SAN, to give the closing remarks and also make a presentation to the guest lecturer, Brother Joseph.
Brethren of Yoruba Tennis Club, long live our sisters, long live our guests. I bring you good tidings from the Chairman Board of Trustees Alhaji Femi Okuno, SANCON. Well, as you all know, he's in his 90s, and there's a limit to his moving around. Today's lecturer, Senator Uzodimma, thank you so much for this insightful and thought-provoking lecture. I'm not surprised. I haven't listened to your profile being read. Very deep lecture. And I am sure we will all walk away with thoughts in our mind. One of the speakers mentioned just the last speaker said, look, don't just listen and walk away. Practice what you preach. Practice what you preach. We should all go back home today with a few things. Number one, the contents of Senator Uzodimma's lecture. Take it back to your communities. I said it earlier, practice what you preach. Take it back. Reflect on it. And above all, let us engage amongst ourselves the act of attending such lectures, encourage such lectures, enlighten ourselves. We have a long way to go in this country. Let us prefer positive things, not negative things. The social media, it's all about negative things in Nigeria. Senator, thank you. Warm regards from Alhaji Okuno again, and then have a good afternoon, everybody. Thank you.
I'm just considering I saw your flash was in my feed, but that's why I need to know.
In appreciation of the delivery of a public lecture on the today, the 18th day of July 2024, I present you.
Excellency, sir.
Your Excellency. Sorry. Excellency.
In addition to that, there is a token gift for Your Excellency. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
We humbly invite the royal father. We want you, the governor of the state, to please step off the photograph, please. When you want the vice chair, vice chairman, you're invited as well. Thank you. Your Excellency, this is a presentation from the group. Honorable Chairman of the Yoruba Tennis Club. The Vice Chairman of the Yoruba Tennis Club will lead the board of council.
Who opened my museum in 1921. I was so proud that he's here. He's my very good friend. And also Toby Akisoya and the Professor Odeshi and all those are art directors very, very close to me. And I said I was giving to when I go to Imo State, I see a different thing that the government for what is doing. I have never probably were in Imo State. We got to Abia and now Professor State. We are from They have a lot of committee, SAG or new SA has come for committee of presenting this to you, and I said I must present it in Lagos. Yes, we must present it to you in a place. The title is DK Your Honor. It's a honor. DK Your Honor. You can see that is his name because it's a DK. He went to push. Everything and bring the people to me. They have brought Abuja to come and succeed the people. We must come back to him. So when I come in here, I see we have some village officers and I don't even ask that with you. Say, sure, come here, I want to release you. This is the person the people want to do, but now we have to do it of ABC. So I am very happy. And Governor General, no problem.
Yes,
Please, a side question from
Nigeria's political landscape and the road to the 2027 general elections. Nigeria's road to the 2027 general elections is shaping into a fierce struggle for power, with the frontline parties strategizing amid economic pressure, security concerns, and a demand for stronger electoral integrity. The ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, has already declared its intention to retain power in 2027, projecting continuity and defending its economic reforms as necessary, even though many Nigerians continue to face unprecedented hardship from inflation and high cost of living. The People's Democratic Party, PDP, still nursing wounds from the 2023 election, has taken a defining step by zoning its 2027 presidential ticket to the south, while retaining the party chairmanship in the north. This move is aimed at restoring the balance that the party has long upheld, and to address the resentment that followed its decision to throw open the ticket in 2023. Many Southern members felt marginalized then, resulting in a major rebellion that weakened the party. By returning to zoning, the PDP seeks to rebuild internal unity, court Southern electorates, and position itself strategically for coalition talks with other parties. The Labour Party, LP, which surged into national reckoning in 2023 on the back of youthful energy and popular outrage against the establishment, remains a major factor. However, its capacity to sustain momentum will depend on deepening its structures beyond urban centers, mobilizing resources, and deciding whether to join forces with the PDP or other opposition blocs without losing its image as a movement party. The new Nigeria People's Party, NNPP, which enjoyed northern urban appeal under Rabiu Kwakwanso, faces internal strains, but could still emerge a kingmaker if it leverages its base into a negotiated alliance. The African Democratic Congress, ADC, though not as large as the APC or PDP, remains relevant as a party that brands itself as youth-oriented and reform-minded. It has built modest presence in some states and is increasingly courting civil society groups and professionals who seek a third force. In the current climate, the ADC is likely to play a supporting but significant role in any opposition coalition, positioning itself as a bridge between the bigger players and smaller regional parties. Nigeria's experience shows that only a united opposition can defeat a sitting government. The zoning decision by the PDP is therefore not only an internal settlement, but also a strategic signal that the party is prepared to be a pivot for an alliance. Whether the LP, NNPP, and ADC can harmonize with it remains the defining question. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is under intense pressure to rebuild confidence after the technology and logistics failures of 2023. The use of BVAS and the iRev portal had raised expectations, but delays and discrepancies undermined trust. For 2027, INEC must demonstrate greater transparency, train ad hoc staff more effectively, and ensure timely dispute resolution to avoid the crisis of confidence that dogged the last election. As the election approaches, the economy will remain the dominant issue. The APC will argue that its reforms are bearing fruit and that reversing them would be disastrous, while the opposition will highlight daily suffering, rising costs, and the need for immediate relief. The party that best convinces Nigerians that their votes will count and that tangible improvement will follow is likely to have the edge in 2027. Back on the beat, BOS International Magazine is back. It's bold, it's fresh, it's everything BOS in print. By popular demand, the magazine you've missed, the one that once traveled side by side with the Biscon show, is back. Reimagined for today, reborn for tomorrow. Once a flagship companion to the BOS brand, BOS International Magazine returns to reclaim its space, not just as a publication, but as a powerful extension of the BOS experience. From the vibrant pulse of people and politics to the fast lanes of sports and lifestyle, from the quiet corridors of influence to the vibrant streets that shape our culture, BOS International Magazine is your passport to the stories that matter. We shine the spotlight on the bold, the brilliant, and the beautiful. We capture the essence of Nigeria and the heartbeat of its people. We tell stories that inspire, profiles that endear, news that resonates, and moments that live forever in print. It's not just a magazine, it's a movement, it's a mirror, it's BOS on a page. BOS International Magazine. News, sports, people, politics, places, lifestyle. By popular demand. Back in your hands. And once again, the perfect complement to BOS on screen. Biscon TV, beyond the screen. Step into the future of visibility with Biscon TV live streaming on YouTube, where your story, your event, your brand travels farther than the television screen can ever go. With crystal clear visuals, real-time coverage, and instant accessibility, we break the barriers of distance and time, putting your content in the palms of millions around the globe. And here's the power of it all. It's not just a moment. It's a full coverage on YouTube. Your event stays live, stored, and ready for viewers to watch again and again. No missed moments, no lost memories, just evergreen visibility, replayable at any time, anywhere in the world. And we don't just stop at YouTube. Your visibility multiplies as we spread your voice across Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, the very platforms where the world's conversations happen. From reels that trend in seconds, to streams that keep fans glued, to highlights that go viral, your content becomes part of the global digital buzz. With Biscon TV, your event is not confined to a hall or a city. It's open to the world. Your wedding in Lagos can be witnessed in London. Your corporate launch in Abuja can trend in New York. A community celebration in Ogun can light up feeds in Dubai. That's the power of Biscon TV live streaming. Limitless reach, borderless connection. Your audience doesn't just watch, they engage, they comment, they share, they spread your story further than you imagined. Whether you're celebrating love, launching a product, covering a political milestone, or telling your brand story, with Biscon TV, you're not just being seen, you're being remembered. So, when you think of impact, think more than television. Think of presence. Think of influence. Think of Biscon TV, powering visibility, connecting the world, and keeping you live everywhere. Biscon TV, not just on TV. We're everywhere.
Mr. Infrastructural Renewal. Our regular trustees and special guests, presiding chair, distinguished guest speaker, past chairman, officers, president, and past of the Island Club, the elders of the Island Club, gentlemen of the press, gentlemen of the Highland Club, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me, on behalf of the diplomatic subcommittee, welcome you all to the public lecture. But before I go forward, let me put this public lecture in its context. One of the striking features of Highland Club is that it's a club that parades the shakers and movers family. During the colonial period, pre-independence, at independence, and up to now, the successful leaders of this great club consultation, reflection, and dialogue. When the party in Lagos fell, and even before the colonial, before that, the parliament was a great talk. And the Highland Club has always been a place where if there are difficulties about taking decisions or moving a day, they come to the Highland Club and over a bottle of beer or drinks, they will come to a consultation and go back to the parliament to take decisions. That was the height of the importance, the import of this social club, along with others around here. So the successive leaders over the years have reflected on this to say, alongside with the dining and the wining and the dancing, there's always room also for reflection. That we have in the club with the four, or the diamonds, or the central tables, or even the new jerseys, the gravitas. And if you look at the platform, it's always talked of vibrance. We talk about many things going on in our country, and now talking about how to move our country forward. So in business, in commerce, in industry, in judiciary, in advertising, we have all the gurus that have gone through this and continue to play that important role. It's along these lines that over the years, a diplomatic group was established. And we have had over the years eminent Nigerians that are like Shivanyoku, like Onley, others. And we have also invited a military commissioner, embassies, come and give a because there are people with you. So it's along these lines that infrastructure renewal, reactivated diplomacy, rolling. In the mirror. And what are the protocols? And we had a very good outing and a lot of ideas came. This is our second outing. He did say that who is going to be the speaker? We look at the similarities between our chairman, Mr. Infrastructure Renewal, that has done quite a lot of things in terms of the regional of in the club. In terms of no other person but the man of the moment, the dynamic Director General of the ECC, Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, who also can be referred Mr. Infrastructure Renewal. We need to take a visit to the Institute of International Affairs and see what Professor Egosa is doing. Not only is it fostering partnership with government, the military, the private sector, and even also promoting the soft power. Ambassador Shegun Oyegbami has a place in this study. And at the appropriate time, we will hear from him to talk about the most topical issues, both nationally and internationally. Mr. Trump, what it means for Africa and what it means for Nigeria. I will not hesitate to also tell you that as part of to tell you the interest that is shown in the subject, we will have a Mr. Trump in the airline club. Pa Lawal, who unfortunately is in Britain now. Mr. Lawal could engage you for 24 hours on Trump. For him, Trump never does any wrong. When I called him in the United States a few days ago, I said, oh, unfortunately, he's in California, I moved to the president. So that shows the amount of currency that goes on in the airline club. It's part of the outward manifestations of dancing, drinking, and whining that happens here. I must also let you know that we have various branches. We have the upper chamber, we have the Congress, we have the diamond group, and we have the gravitas. But having said that, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we have also talked about who do we have as the chairman for this occasion. We looked around and we said we're looking for a statesman, an elder speaker, a quintessential public figure, and the church falls on no other than our chairman for today. And I must say that even though he's my boss, my mentor, my role model, immediately I called him spontaneously and said, Shegun, I'll be there. And he also spoke. But who is this man? A gallant soldier, an impeccable man, a Lagosian par excellence, a Lagos boy. Born of an Igbo father and a Fulani Hasina of the royal dynasty, married to a lady of substance who also has the Ogun and Bayelsa connections. So you are seeing a Nigeria personified. And that is where is an epitome of Nigeria's cultural unity and diversity. Ikechukwu, Umar, son died. White people. In and out of uniform, he was fantastic, quintessential. He rose to the rank of the first of the general officer commanding the first division, used the first division. During that period also, at the time, he was governor of Imo State. I don't know how many of you remember at that time, the Imo riots. That was the architect of the Imo riots. And the Imo riots was the thing in power at that time. That shows that whatever is given, whatever position he has, he excels himself. He was also the minister for labor and productivity. And it was during this time that he created the Nigerian Directorate of Employment, NDE, that employed a lot of people. That is the right situation for you. It's also an MNI, and I'm happy that there are a lot of MNIs that are here seated. The MNI, otherwise, people call us the Mafia Nigeria Incorporated. These are the alumni association of the old students of Peru. He was one of the pioneer students there. But more importantly, a seasoned diplomat. He was twice Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs. And that was the place that there are white people also made a lot of marks. And by sheer coincidence, I was the arrow edge of this idea in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, economic diplomacy, as one of the products of the structural adjustment program. We came out with this idea that we need to use the diplomatic establishment to attract foreign investment and promote Nigerian knowledge exports. I happen to be the director of a restructured International Economic Cooperation Directorate, the Trade and Investment Department that I had the opportunity to nurture and also to manage when I was the Minister of Foreign Affairs. We did quite a lot of things here during that period. Each time that Wagida is going with a trade visit, we mobilize the private sector for the trade and investment department and really made a mark. There are white people really talk that he left the foreign ministry. He also became the Senator of the Republic of Nigeria. And so this is a man that has seen it all. He's a Nigerian personified. He's a quintessential public servant, a seasoned diplomat, and please join me in welcoming Major General Umar. Very welcome, sir. It's my pleasure to be our chair for today. Thank you.
I will stand on the existing protocol. First, I must commend the founders of Ireland Club, the oldest Nigerian indigenous club. It was clearly a fitting answer to the colonial powers of the time who had their own exclusive club, to which Nigerians ready for what the veto, the Yoruba club, yet another answer to the Lagos one that is power at that time. I believe that the spirit and the pride expressed by our leaders there in establishing their own recreational space to inform our own appropriate answers to the unfolding circumstances of the new international relations order that President Donald Trump of the United States of America is waking the world up. In my time, as Nigeria's foreign minister, we introduced economic reforms aimed at making the Nigerian economy robust and highly developed, and its people strongly being players in Africa and world trade, respectively. In close collaboration with our private sector, we established at that time a Nigeria Incorporated to create a highly industrialized, scientific and economic powerhouse ready to contribute to technology, world trade, and human capital development. Had we continued along this path, our country today would have been in an excellent position to benefit from whatever policy changes that powerful countries and conglomerates make, rather, unfortunately, than panicking and therefore not using what we have to deal with the emerging challenges to our benefit. I personally thank President Donald Trump I'm not his apologist, but I personally thank him for jolting us from our slumber. This new posture in international relations should be seen as a spur, not a setback. For us, this moment should be about seizing the opportunity presented to turn a legacy of external dependence into an era of self-driven growth. But how long would we as a people be dependent on handouts, time and again, government after government, speakers after speakers, have told us that it was time that we as Nigerians took our own fate in our own hands. We have the capacity, we have the enablement, we have the drive. What in the name of goodness is not panic when somebody says America first or Britain first? Why not Nigeria first? And that's why I support totally President Tinubu's present pronunciation. It should be Nigeria first. Consequently, we must be prepared to confront our challenges head-on and innovate solutions internally. We must therefore make relevant policies for our own development. To that extent, like I said earlier, I support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's Nigeria First policy. I strongly advise that this and all the policies that they will make be strictly and successfully implemented, because making our country and Nigerians less dependent on foreign powers or foreign interest groups. It's a challenge for us. And I know we are able to take on those challenges. We must stop being lazy. We must walk our talk, for God's sake. I am absolutely tired of being your prime minister before, going around the world, telling the world how great this country is. I come around today and see our country almost prostrate. That's not the Nigeria that I grew up with. No. That's not the Nigeria we want to bequeath to our children. Correct the mistakes of the past, gather our thoughts, gather our energies, innovate, use our resources, and develop and join the rest of the world on equal terms. We must not be inferior to anybody. We just must not do that. We must not be beggars. We must therefore work to be partners and not appendages, and work to achieve complementarity in our relations with the world. I must now allow our lecturer, everyday lecturer, Professor Ehosa Osai, Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, to address us. Meanwhile, the Chairman, Alan Clark, Omova, Dr. Rotimi Olatope, KCOP, our former chairman here, and my brothers, the management committee and members of our club, diplomatic corps, distinguished members of the Freedom Club, ladies and gentlemen, thank you immensely for allowing me the opportunity of sharing this. Thank you.
Club and the fathers and elders of this club, the chair of today's occasion, my Oga, very Oga at the top, General IOS Wanchu, of whom it's been said when he was a younger officer, he didn't have the opportunity to look into the mirror before leaving your house. You could use his shoes as your mirror, because the shoes were so well kept and clean. And this is coming from no less a person than General Yakubu. Thank you, sir. And the chair of the diplomacy group of the Island Club and members of that group, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored and privileged to be invited to this select group. I'm sure that with Adelaide Nodu, who is my mentor and mentor and teacher, would say hereafter that I have joined a league, those who featured at all at the Island Club. I think that this is a promotion, and I don't take it for granted at all. I'm very delighted. I'm also particularly happy to note our elite that remains interested in foreign affairs. Again, this is in Nigeria, the way things have come. It's quite a remarkable thing that shows that our elite is not just only about enjoying life and becoming big and consuming everything that is on offer and even capturing the state, but the elite is also thinking critically about how our country can make progress on the international stage. And that perhaps is the place to begin with, because Nigeria is not your ordinary country. Nigeria is such a great country that the world acknowledges. That Nigeria is a big global player. Africa acknowledges that Nigeria is a big power. West Africa knows that when Nigeria sneezes, the region catches hold. But most of all, the global south says Nigeria is the one who will join the others to lead us. And so I congratulate you that we're having these kinds of discussions that will help us, all of us. These are not things that lead to the MFA, Minister of Foreign Affairs, or the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Not because we don't have the capacity, competencies, skills to do what is necessary, but because we all of us need to be fully involved in the most inclusive way to deal with matters that we know and that we don't know. Especially when today we're discussing perhaps the most uncertain, the most intriguing, the most confusing, and the most complex matters that have challenged us in the most recent past. The thing about Trump's second coming is that it was easy to predict what he was going to do in his second coming. And everyone expected that, but we didn't know that there was still room to exceed expectations and do things that would shock everyone. Now, but think of him like this. He shocks himself, he comes back, he reflects, and he says, you know what, we can rethink. So in other words, he's always known, that he's not the only person that can shake and rock the boat. There are others that he's challenging to say, when you rise up to me, then it's time. So for instance, he's visiting the Middle East, and he says, this same republic called the Persian Gulf, we should actually rename it the Arabian Gulf. Now he's looking for trouble. Now he knows that people in Iraq would say, how dare you? Now, but he also knows that people in Saudi Arabia and other people who are thinking along his lines would say, finally, we found someone to speak for us. Or he says to Canada, you should actually be the 51st state of the United States. What have you been waiting for? Or he says to Panama, I have put money there, Americans have put money there. What have we gotten in return? Now, we say the same things to countries like Zimbabwe and South Africa. But we don't talk exactly like Trump, you see. Because we should be seen to Zimbabwe. For all that we have done for you, what have we gotten in return? Now, so maybe I want to suggest to us that the way to begin to look at the second coming of Trump is to look for conceptual lenses and frameworks that will help us. I have in mind first a comparative framework. The one that says, this is Trump's second coming. What did he do in his first coming? What would that lead us to expect? Knowing, of course, that in those comparative lenses, the world of his first coming is not the same as the world of his second coming. And I can tell you one of the critical differences. You will see that Donald Trump represents a global tendency that is not restricted to the United States. All over the world, there is an upsurge, a rise in the emergence of ultra-nationalist right-wing regimes. Meaning, that what has happened to most parts of Europe were things that finally we were waiting to see how America would finally take the lead. So, that's the one. The second is that the domestic environment in the United States of America itself is not quite at the same level that it was when you first came. You must also take that into consideration. So I'm going to suggest to us that the lenses that will help us to place Donald Trump and his regime in proper perspective must include power as the central element in politics, whether domestically or foreign policy. Power is very central. And what do you do with power when you have it? The really said you must use power to get what you want. I mean, you can't shade across that. You can't pretend that that's not what you are doing. And Trump is a student of real politics who sees power as the one that can be used as an instrument to secure whatever he wants to secure. Power simply defined is the ability of A to make B do what A wants, whether B wants to do it or not. So Trump begins by saying, here you are, this is what I want. And you do it, or there are things that will happen. Now, so he's very, realistic, and he's a power monger. Second, there is the constructivist perspective that says these are responses that are conditioned by circumstances that may not have been created by Donald Trump, but he has the capacity to make the best use of them. For instance, to redefine what making America great again entails. And that redefinition also has as context what the Americans themselves want. And so Donald Trump is populist. He is not representing himself only. He simply represents a tendency in America that many of us have taken for granted or pretended not to see. Now, those who analyze American politics simply in terms of the Democratic-Republican divide will now be asking questions about what America have we always known. Let me suggest to us that as part of this reconstruction, Donald Trump has done many things that will send students of international relations back to the drawing board and back to their perspectives. And I want to suggest some of them. First is, international relations is a very conservative discipline. And what you do is that the domestic politics will be different and separate from the international politics, even though you say that your foreign policy posture will be a reflection of your domestic politics. Now, so many of the things that we use as tools of analysis at the state level, this level of the nation state, we leave them at that level and don't take them beyond to the international arena. For instance, when we talk about democracy and authoritarianism and accountability and transparency and governance and so on, we take these ones as state level variables. And we often forget that those extensions into the international arena happen as a matter of almost logical extension, because the things that happen domestically would find some resonance in foreign policy process. So, for instance, students of international relations must now begin to think about applying authoritarianism to practical street, that we must begin to rethink within the ambit of authoritarianism and the kinds of tendencies that some of our leaders have beginning to show. Now, accountability is something that we also need to rethink, for the simple reason that all heads of state today find themselves in very difficult, where you are dealing with one man who is wielding so much power, and he doesn't care that you are accountable to your people. Now he calls you to account and deals with you on that basis. without any extension of the democratic, imperative of accountability. So, Donald Trump challenges all of us to rethink what we have always assumed or imagined or taken for granted. So, in other words, this is just the beginning. We don't know how it's going to end. But let me focus now on Donald Trump as the second coming in the United States. Now, it is said that Donald Trump is a very unconventional person. Now, once he owned an estate and he bought it and like the guys who were living there. So he thought of a scheme. He went to the guys and said, "Look guys, I'm going to offer you money so that you guys can leave the place and go and get other places where you will stay." And they were very happy. He was not president, of course, but he was top businessman. He just wanted to have an estate that was like no other estate in the United States. So when the guys refused to leave, he got the homeless people and looked into the apartments that were vacant and loaded all of them inside the place. And pushed, and the people were saying, "No, what is it? We're invaded," and so on. Many of them started living on their own. And then he called them back and said, "Look, this is what I've been telling you. We need the greater estate." And the guys agreed. And he had this way. Another time, he wanted a new look estate. And he was saying to the guys, "I think you should upgrade and what did you call it?" He said, "Infrastructural renewal." So we should renew. And the guys were hesitant, they were resisting what he was saying. He said, "No problem." By the time they woke up, they found that all the houses had been painted white and blue. And they were grateful to him because yes and no. He has said, we live in a global order that we all like to say is a rules-based system. Is that right? Our international relations are global ties, are bilateral, are multilateral, all of these things are governed by the rule of law. So there are rules to be followed. But then he says, who's going to enforce the rules? That's always been the problem. Who enforces the rules? And because rules are not enforced as they should, every once in a while you find a Donald Trump who comes in to fill the gap. And who then enforces those rules to suit what he wants. And, his own interests. And don't we know that we have always said that in the international system, they are the gatekeepers, those who are in charge of this system. For a long time, this is a Western order, and therefore all of the things that have come have been authored and enforced by Western powers for Western interests, and so on. So, those of us from Africa and from Nigeria are very strong on the sanctity of a rules-based global order. And so we find it, a little odd and strange when people come and break the rules, as it were. We've seen that in Russia. And I see a point to you that Donald Trump is not so very angry that Russia, invaded Ukraine. Yeah, because he would do the same thing. If a country near him misbehaves in a manner that suggests you have become a security threat, he will take action. But he also is very diplomatic and he's careful. But what should Africa be concerned with at this point? What should we be looking at? Donald Trump, in his first coming, had shared prosperity and partnership with Africa as a policy target. And so he had called Africa together to say, we are going to have new collaborations. We are going to have new partnerships that will be win-win. But at that time, the object of this African collaboration was to reduce and restrict the inroads of China and Russia. And he made that very clear. So in his first coming, his greatest interest in Africa was to say we'll stop China and Russia, from anything they would say. And he had all kinds of deals that would lead him into doing those kinds of things. So he would give aid. At the point he had thought of reducing aid by 30%. But later he considered that and said, well, you put your money where your mouth is. We can help these people. China is coming on very strong. We need to increase investment in Africa, but we need to trade more also. So we facilitate trade. We had deals with Kenya for beyond the AGOA arrangement. We had, those preferences and privileges that countries like Kenya enjoyed. And that was fine because he was able to work deals that would say, well, America is your friend. And, especially when we have had the devastations of COVID-19, we can come in and support you and get you to see that we are closer to you than China and Russia are. Now, the world then had Biden as president of the United States of America. In 2022, we had a summit with 49 African heads of state. And he said, we are interested in increased trade, we want to secure your land, we are interested in stability, we would strengthen the African command in Stuttgart, we would increase trade, we would increase our aid to you, America will invest more by way of direct investment, and we expect that the private sector in Africa, especially, should begin to wake up and partner with the private sector in the United States. Now, but most of all, we want to keep the world safe for democracy. And he was beginning to worry about democratic reversals in Africa and how those things would be dealt with. Now, this was Big Brother America. Okay? On that line, which was very good. Now, the world has moved on. There are several challenges that have become, of greater concern than they ever were. One of them is energy. For Trump, in his first coming, and under Biden, America was dealing with energy transition. But today, it's no longer energy transition, but energy security. Is that right? And that transformation it's not simply a nomenclatural, differentiation. It is something that is saying, look, the transition would have America first. So we will secure our own internal sources as well as the external sources that will feed us. So in signing the executive orders, that he started his office, there were a couple of things that he signed that would have had direct impact on us. The first is energy security. Okay? Now, in his first coming, he was very clear that part of the deal we want from you is if you guarantee us access to sources of energy transition, we will do business with you. But now for energy security, it's even more difficult because he wants assurances that we'll get access to those strategic minerals, the kind of thing that is doing with Ukraine. Now, there is a payoff. So you do this, we will do X for you. Second, he says, we can no longer afford free lunch. So we must cut back on so-called humanitarian aid. And he targets the USAID. Now, one of the things that, Trump can be very hyperbolic. So he says, there's even a country called Lesotho. Who has ever heard of a country called Lesotho? We are giving them money. And it's such an insignificant country. So you see what he's saying is, for us, it is American first. So if you don't matter to us, you don't exist. So he says you cut back on that. He's also talked about the abuses of the aid that came under USAID and so on. Now those cutbacks have direct implications. Whereas Biden kept saying that American engagement in Africa will now embrace civil society and the private sector, you will find that the cutback on USAID grants and other grants are directly suffocating civil society. I don't know what you have found out, but many of the big civil society groups in Nigeria that have been doing things over the years are now in trouble. Yeah, because they have told them the funds are off. We're not going to give you money anymore. Now, he has not only done this, he has also said for climate change agreement, no more deal. So America is going to deal with matters outside of the agreements that you have had. And then he talks about the use of American resources like oil and gas. And he says, we will optimize our benefits for the sake of America. And also look elsewhere to see how we can shore up all of this. So he's not shy to say, we'll sell oil, we'll sell gas, we'll be in the market, and we'll do all the things that you guys do. So America is no longer post-war. Now, in terms of security, that's fantastic. Every person is, security is every person's business. But it says, America is no longer going to be able to say to you, we'll pick your security. You take charge of your security. Most of all, he says, the WHO, this multilateral platform, that have been the constant parasites, because they've been taking American money forever. He's drawing back and cutting back and denying them, any kind of funding. He now also is ready to asphyxiate the United Nations. Why is he doing this? Because he wants to create more room for bilateral relations and for unilateral action. So that he can reduce the scope for collective action on the basis of platforms like the UN and deal individually with countries, the way he's doing now. So you can isolate and deal with everyone. So this is also well laid out, and he knows what he's doing. What are the implications, of these developments for us in Africa? The first is, and I saw this, is the Carnegie Endowment. They have policy groups, and they say Trump is ready to fix Africa. What a headline. That everyone has shied away from doing it, but he has finally said, you know what? You wake up. You must do for yourselves what you want. We are not going to come to spoon feed you anymore. It's time for you to use your resources to get what you want. But for us, we are interested in lithium, for instance. And so we go into Congo and say, look, would you let us get lithium? If you let us get lithium, we will intervene to ensure that this war will be reduced and there are things that you can get as payoff. So it's a deal at the time, and he gets his pound of flesh for every little thing that he does. Now, so he goes into Sudan and he says, look, who is interested in these kinds of things? If there is sweet oil from Sudan, we will use it And that would be now. So Trump is all over the place. In the Sahel, you know, we've had those problems, and you know, there are changes. People are challenging. You know, the United States, you know, stranglehold on resources in the name of providing security and protection in the fight against terrorism. And they're saying, this is the same thing you have told us from day one, but you know, and so on. So all of these things are happening. And Trump is turning the world upside down. But most of all, then he says, if these guys still don't know the kind of business that I want to do, I will give them a tariff war. And so he has gone to town, he has said, look, we would retaliate. Everything that you do to America will get back at you. But he's the one throwing the first bomb, you know, and waiting to see how people react. And then he said, okay, it's okay, we can talk about that. You know, we'll get 90-day moratorium, and then, you know, we can negotiate and so on. Now, a country like Lesotho, why he has singled out Lesotho? He has clamped on them 50% tariffs. And, you know, somebody said at one of those forums, but why is he doing that? Lesotho specializes, amongst other things, in producing jeans textiles for America. Can you believe it? Lesotho, you know, sends its jeans, you know, to the United States. And they're saying, can Lesotho really compete in the jeans market? Let Lesotho send its jeans to Nigeria and Kenya and Djibouti and those places in the name of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Now, does Trump really worry about Africa? Does Africa feature prominently in his agenda, his policy agenda? In his first comment, yes.
This is the news on Biscon TV. I'm Ime Emmanuel. Let's take a look at the headlines. On the national scene, Tinubu returns to Nigeria after Japan and Brazil trips. Peter Obi sues Adeyanju Deji over alleged defamation. On business, NESG recommends economic stabilization, growth priorities for federal government. On the foreign scenes, North Korea Kim Jong-un to join Putin at China military parade. And in sport, Lionel Messi masterclass sends Inter Miami to Leagues Cup final. Now the news in detail. President Ahmed Bola Tinubu returned to Abuja today following diplomatic engagement in Japan and Brazil. According to a statement by Tinubu's spokesperson, Bayo Ononuga, the presidential jet, which took off from Brasilia International Airport, based at 12:57 p.m. local time Wednesday, touched down early morning on Thursday. Tinubu attended the opening ceremony and plenary of the ninth Tokyo International Conference on African Development TICAD 9 on August 20 in Japan. He held bilateral meetings and rounded off with an interactive session with members of the Nigerian community. Following the conclusion of the TICAD 9, he departed Yokohama for a stopover in Los Angeles before proceeding to Brasilia. In Brazil, he met with President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva and senior Brazilian officials. The two leaders held private discussions and oversaw the signing of 5 memoranda of understanding. Moving on now, presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general elections, Mr. Peter Obi, has moved to initiate legal action against activist Deji Adeyanju over a series of alleged defamatory publications made on social media. Obi, through his lawyer Alex Ejesieme-San, accused Adeyanju of persistently spreading false and malicious statements against him on the microblogging platform X, formerly known as Twitter, as well as on Facebook and other channels. In a letter of demand issued on Obi's behalf, Adeyanju was accused of repeatedly portraying the former Anambra State governor as corrupt, fraudulent, and a religious bigot. The publications, some of which date back to 2022, allegedly sought to injure Obi's reputation among Nigerians and the international community. Among the posts cited, Adeyanju alleged that Obi diverted Anambra State funds into family businesses, attempted to bribe him after a private meeting, and he used religion to manipulate voters during the 2023 presidential campaign. In another story, Honorable Jude Emeka Idimogo has been to release the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB, Mazi Namdi Kanu,